Fish on Fridays. I'm Al McCauley. Today I want to talk to you about a saint, a legendary saint that is very popular, and we remember her every year on December 4th. And her name is Saint Barbara. Now, Saint Barbara is one of those saints we call apocryphal. We don't know a lot about her, and what we do know is so much based on legend that in 1969, like so many of these saints that we've talked about on Fish on Fridays, the Pope removed her from the liturgical calendar. However, doesn't mean you can't pray with her. It doesn't mean you can't have a devotion to her. In fact, I would encourage you to do that because there's so much from her life that is worth emulating and worth knowing about. What's fascinating about Saint Barbara is, depending on what you read and who you read, she was the basis for and the inspiration for the story of the fairy tale story of Rapunzel. We'll see if you can find the connections as I go on and tell you a little bit about this early church martyr. She's going to die right around the year 306 by that infamous Roman Emperor Constantine.
It was actually Diocletian who was the emperor during this time. Constantine, we talk about him a lot. He converted at the end of his life. Diocletian was the Roman emperor who was really cruel and had a lot of persecution. So Diocletian is the name to remember.
She's going to live in Asia Minor, so present-day Turkey is where she's at. And she was very pretty by all accounts, and she was a young child. When she got into her teens, her dad, we have no idea where her mother is, but her dad decided to have a tower built and stash her away in the tower anytime he left to go on business because he was so afraid that someone was going to try to be a suitor, try to steal her away, whatever. He didn't want the outside world influencing her, let's just put it that way. And so when he was gone on one of these trips, she from her tower heard an itinerant preacher talking about Christ and Christianity, and she was so taken by it that he would come back. She would ask him to come back, and he would talk to her from below. And she decided, I'm going to become a Christian. I'm going to commit my virginity to Christ. And as a showing of that, the tower that she lived in had two windows her father had constructed. She decided to knock out some blocks to make a third window to represent the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Spirit. So her dad, whose name was King Dioscorus, he was a king and he lived again in Asia Minor. He finally caught wind of the fact that she was a Christian. And as you can imagine, he is a pagan. He flew into a rage and said, no noble daughter of mine, no prince's daughter of mine is going to become a Christian. And so he took her in front of the local magistrate and he turned her in basically and said, she's a Christian. And she just wanted to live as a hermit. She could leave me in my tower, Dad. That's all. But I just want to be a Christian. But he would have none of it. And so he took her to the magistrate. The magistrate found her guilty and sentenced her to death if she would not renounce Christ. Well, she wouldn't do it. And so they tried all kinds of different tortures to visit upon her. They tried fire, but the fire would go out. They tried to scourge her to death, which has happened to other saints. We did an episode of Saint Bibiana. She was scourged to death. But every time they tried to whip her, the legend is that the whiplashes turned into peacock feathers and they didn't hurt her at all. Sometimes you think about St. Barbara's feast day. Sometimes you see her holding a peacock feather. That's why. But eventually nothing was working. And her dad was so frustrated with his daughter and so upset that he flew into a rage and he beheaded her himself. Now, what's interesting about the story is it says that once he beheaded her, as soon as he killed her, a storm broke out, lightning came down and incinerated him, as if God was punishing him for this. Now, that's important to understand the legacy of Barbara because she is invoked as the patron of untimely deaths, possibly because that's how her dad died. He didn't expect to die. So anybody who dies in an accident, if you know or love somebody who's died because of some kind of a natural disaster, St. Barbara is your go-to person to say, give me comfort, help me, because you know what this is like. Your father died that way. And you could make a case that she did too, in fact. She wasn't expecting to die because she had been saved from all these other tortures. But because of the loud nature of lightning, believe it or not, because of the loud nature of lightning, that it sounds like a crash, a boom, she is invoked as the patron of people like miners who have to use dynamite or explosives to break apart the rock, and also artillerymen who use cannon and stuff. The other thinking behind those patronages is that, again, if you are shot by a cannon, chances are you're going to be surprised by it, and it's going to be an untimely death. If you're a minor and you die in your mind, it's going to be a shock and an untimely death. So again, this all goes back to that idea of the untimely death. That's why Barbara is invoked in those ways. There are still today, there are groups of artillerymen who have an order of St. Barbara. They follow her because in her patronage and pray to her because of this connection. If you look at a holy card or a painting or a picture of Barbara, it's replete with symbolism. There's all kinds of symbolism, and some of the constants that you see over and over again, depending on how she's being depicted. You'll see a tower. Sometimes she's holding it, sometimes it's behind her in the background, but the tower, because again, that's where she was held captive. You see a cannon oftentimes, or cannonballs stacked up to remind us of the nature of the untimely death, and certainly the booming, loud noise of cannon that sounds like lightning, which killed her father. Oftentimes she's shown holding a chalice, and maybe there's the Eucharist, the Blessed Sacrament is peeking out of it. And this is because she always wanted to be a Christian. That's what she longed for more than anything, was to receive the sacraments, and this was withheld from her because of her father's intervention and ultimately killing her. A palm branch is typical of all martyrs because they've achieved the victory of their salvation by virtue of their death. And then sometimes she is shown holding, or there's a sword in the image because, again, that's the manner of her death. Her father beheaded her. So anyway, St. Barbara, if you know or love someone named Barbara, if you know or love somebody who is in the artillery, part of the military, works with artillery, somebody who is a minor, any of those kinds of things, or sadly, if you do know somebody who died an untimely death, maybe you can share this with them to bring them comfort, to let them know that Barbara is somebody that they can reach out to for her powerful intercession. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you'd like to share this content, please feel free to do so. We would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook. But either way, please keep tuning in every Friday for Fish on Friday. We're so grateful that you do that. Until next time, please be good to each other, and God bless.